Yeah, so we look at marketing as a scientific approach to use control and variable testing to identify exactly what your customers want right now. And then we'll scale that. So we'll know a problem that people have, and then we'll come up with several solutions and we'll test those solutions. I think the most interesting thing I've ever done was there's a movie called When a Stranger Calls that came out in like
Mhm.
2006. So basically I was lead on that campaign, and ran the media plan.
From a billion impression campaign to transforming client results with AI, discover the incredible journey of Robert Brill and how he's revolutionizing marketing in today's digital age.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
I really appreciate your time. As I was telling you earlier, I know it's tough to carve out the time. So let's just jump right in. You've positioned Brill Media like at the forefront of precision marketing to drive business growth. So could you explain how precision marketing fundamentally differs from traditional advertising approaches and why it's so crucial for businesses looking for scalable and predictable growth?
Yeah, so we look at marketing as a scientific approach to use control and variable testing to identify exactly what your customers want right now. So we do that in $25 incremental sprint testing steps, because I don't want to guess what people want from your business. I don't want you to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a website and it's not work, but it looks beautiful. It doesn't work, but it looks beautiful. What I want is the marketplace to tell you right now their pain points, the solutions that they resonate with. So our job is to ensure that our customers respond directly to what the customers need right now, and then we scale those messages to drive sales.
Perfect. So like describe for me like your approach with a new client. Like what are the initial steps? How do you ensure alignment with their growth objectives? What is it that you guys do?
Yeah, so the first thing we do is we conduct a series of sprint tests. And these sprint tests start by understanding customer problems. So we'll listen to calls, feedback, customer service, or we'll go into social media and AI and have the marketplace tell us the types of challenges that customers face in your particular industry with the types of services you offer. Then we'll go to Meta and understand exactly which messages really resonate with people by looking at different metrics for the campaigns. And then we'll scale that. So we'll know a problem that people have, and then we'll come up with several solutions and we'll test those solutions. Sorry. And we'll test those solutions. And those solutions will then identify like the headline that people resonate with. And then we'll test a series of images that respond to those headlines and texts that people resonate with. So the goal here fundamentally is to let the marketplace tell us what we're interested in, and then we're going to scale those messages.
Do you generally like do you have to do more than one campaign, generally speaking, to get that information?
We're always testing. So like we'll never stop testing for campaigns. The tests have smaller and smaller incremental benefits over time as you dial in your messaging. But when you're starting, the tests have massive benefits. And those massive benefits will allow you to understand the nuance in the language that people want. So, for example, you never want to be marketing speak. Marketing speak sucks because it's boring. People don't resonate with it. People don't want to be sold. What people actually want is to be led towards a solution to their problems. So our job is to identify the exact language. So for a lot of times, what we do is we listen to our marketing conversations or our sales calls, and we go to Reddit to see the problems that people have on Reddit. And then we take the exact language that people use on Reddit and test those as ads. And so the result is far higher click-through rate, far lower cost per click, and a far lower lead acquisition cost because leads are important for our business.
So do you have like a real world example, perhaps, that you could share with us about how data like that led you to a pivotal decision in one of your campaigns?
So we're a white label media buying firm. That means we serve agencies, and agencies who do creative work, general marketing work, etc. They will contract with us. We'll run their advertising for them and their clients, and we'll go to market together. The client doesn't know that Brill Media exists. They just know that some other agency does media buying, and we're the people doing that work. So our challenge is the biggest problems I see in my agency are due to people. This impacts growth. That does really well. Another one is I need a partner who can handle big campaigns so we can target larger clients confidently. Gangbusters. So our cost per lead on that language drops down to about $10 or $11. And there's a few ways that we get cost per leads lower. So what we have been doing in the past is we've been driving people to a landing page. That's good. Lead cost is about $120 to $150 on Meta. When you combine the problem languages with a lead form that asks 15 different questions, the cost per lead drops down to $20. When you add those additional languages in, it drops down to about $10.
Wow.
Dramatically lower cost per lead because we're orienting around the business. Another example, just in some of our testing, we're getting up to a 4% click-through rate on boring ads for a very small audience that people, like very few people can actually even transact with us. Like it's unheard of for us to get a 4% click-through rate on Meta ads. Usually they're about 1% because it's like very B2B, very oriented around certain
Yeah.
groups of people. Like when we run entertainment campaigns, they're getting 5 to 7% click-through rate. So like our click-through rates are getting up there, and that's astonishing to me.
That's crazy. I mean, I can tell you, I worked for a restaurant delivery service, one of the first in the nation, and back in the early 2000s. And our big push was business meetings. And as kind of a side effect of that, we would get a lot of pharmaceutical representatives who their only way to get to the doctor and spend time with the doctor was to provide lunch to them. So they'd give them lunch, they'd go in, and they'd chat them up. Um, and I, of course, being the technology guy, was kind of tasked with coming up with innovative features for our website. And it always stuff would get shot down because the three owners had done every role in the company, and they really, really, truly thought they understood their customer base. And so they'd say, no, 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 our customer doesn't want that. Our customer doesn't want that. And so our CFO really trusted me, and he kept saying to me, I know your ideas are good. I don't understand why they don't want to hear you. I've convinced them to do a focus group. And so it was one of many. We did one of several. And the first thing they found out was they didn't really know their customer.
Right.
And I think that's a key thing to kind of tie to what you're saying is you can put an ad out there, you can think you know your customer, but if you're not, and that's one of the things I did was I paid attention to what they were saying, and I named the features using the words they used. So
Excellent.
then it just kind of felt like home to them when they would go into the website. Oh, that's exactly what I wanted right there. Let me go do this. I actually can proudly say I created the first group ordering feature for restaurant delivery services. Um,
Nice.
and it's to this day companies use it because it's great. You're having a meeting with 20 people. Who wants to run around with a little post-it note writing down whatever, Joe wants this, so and so wants that. You just have them order it themselves. You give them a
Right.
budget, they go and they take care of it. So I think that approach of like, testing and then and I loved the going to Reddit and, getting what they're saying, because those are real people having the real problem, describing it this way. And if you pay attention to the thread, other people understand the terminology they're using as well to mean that problem. So why not use it? That's really smart. So what role does technology play in precision marketing at Brill Media?
Yeah, so I mean it's everything. Every step of the way. I mean we're basically the Jetsons. I mean this call right now is what they were doing in the Jetsons, which was made in like the 1960s, right? Like this is great. Um, so yeah, I mean every which way. I'll just pull out some random things that I think are really interesting. Um, there when you look at Meta, if you go to meta.ai, it's their version of ChatGPT, which is really cool. Um, when we look at ChatGPT, for example, we use it to help us with our copywriting, and we see higher click-through rates, and it's far less expensive to write ads through ChatGPT than it is to work with a person, which is with a copywriter, which is great. So we can drive more revenue internally. And so I advise if you're doing it yourself, use AI to be an accelerator for whatever task you're working on. If I think of other tools, I really like the automation systems in HubSpot, our CRM solution. Descript is a great tool for capturing and editing video. There's another tool that is really powerful to take TikTok videos and putting them into other channels, resharevideo.com, which is going to be valuable. It goes, when you look at advertising on Meta, for example, and even LinkedIn, you're leveraging the power of machine learning and AI to make decisions. When you think about the effectiveness of Meta, you know, Meta has really great data, but as you know, great data alone isn't going to be valuable. It's what you do with that data that's valuable. And Meta has the best algorithm in the marketplace, followed closely by like TikTok, for example. Um, but tech is every part of the equation. But I think what's valuable here is understanding how to use the tech in a meaningful way for your customers. Like you have a real-time focus group in Meta. If you run ads, advertising is a real-time focus group for you to understand what your customers actually want. So if you look at it that way, I mean, you have unprecedented tools that would have cost tens of thousands of dollars many years ago to replicate the same type of effectiveness.
So what are some key um, performance indicators that you focus on to measure the success of your campaigns?
Yeah, sure. So when we're doing sprint testing, we're looking at click-through rate and cost per click. When we're looking at when that's early on in the campaign. When we're actually running like larger sums of money. So the thinking is here the following. It's really inexpensive relative to other types of campaigns to run campaigns on Meta. Number one, Meta is less expensive than LinkedIn, for example. So you want to get all the learnings from Meta and then push them out to LinkedIn or Google or wherever else you're running ads. The second thing is like if you want to buy trade publications or CIO, the Chief Information Officer publications, you want to take the headlines and the solutions and put those in banner ads that you run on your publications, right? It starts to sound a lot more compelling to your customer. So you don't want to spend large amounts of money testing things. You want to spend small amounts of money testing things. So and then once you have those tests sort of like aligned, then you're ready to go and you're spending lots of money on lead objective or sales objective inside Meta or on LinkedIn. And so the metrics there, you're going to have far lower click-through rate and you're going to have a far higher cost per click when you're optimizing to a lead, but you're actually going to generate high quality leads that way. The last thing I'm looking at is relative performance. Like we never go into a relationship and say we're gonna cut your lead cost by 90%. Like I'm never gonna guarantee that because I need context for how things are going, right? So what we do is we look at baseline performance and we say we want to beat tomorrow, we want to beat what we did today, right? So if your cost per lead is $150, can we get it down to 120 or 90 or 70 or lower than that? And those incremental steps are what you're competing against. And I think that's a good analogy for the way you look at life. You're competing with yourself yesterday and today, and the same with the data. So you want to understand your baseline data first and compete with yourself to improve over time.
So how do those KPIs though help you refine your strategies and ensure that predictable growth?
Yeah. So with predictable growth, I mean, um, how do those strategies help people with predictable growth? Yeah, that's interesting. So, number one, everything we do is a testing framework. So, even when we're beyond those sprint tests, when we're running large chunks of money on a monthly basis, we're looking at performance. We want to understand where do we get the best performance on LinkedIn, or is it Meta, or is it Google Ads? What's the quality of a lead? Are we looking at the high cost per lead on LinkedIn, but they're more likely to turn into a customer? That's a metric that we're looking at. Then we're looking at creative executions. We want to constantly understand which messaging is most relevant in the marketplace, even when you're not doing the sprint testing. So for most companies, you want at least one stellar ad that performs effectively. And we found that over time using control and variable testing. And control and variable testing basically says you are going to run a certain number of impressions on ads. This is sort of a different metric for a different use case.
Mhm.
You're gonna run a certain number of impressions per ad, and all the other variables are going to be the same except for one thing, like either the headline, the image, or the primary text. And just isolating one of these things, what does your performance look like over time? And that's the way you start to understand which headlines, images, or video and primary text really resonate for your customers for to find your sort of like one top creative execution. Like we've lived off of one top creative execution for like a year and a half now, and it works. We test other things, they're not as effective as the one ad that really works, the one look and feel that we really like.
That's interesting because, I mean, as someone who's tried to use like Meta, for instance, for advertising, it can seem really complicated, right? So, like, what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced implementing these strategies, and how have you overcome the problems?
Yeah, look, I think there's a few things to consider here. Number one, if you don't know what you're doing with Meta, as you said, it can seem challenging. Like you have to understand the back end of how Meta, if you think of it as a person, how is it thinking? What's the logic here? Like for example, you can run traffic ads where you optimize to a link click or a landing page click, and it will just run with the ad that it thinks is the most interesting. Like it's not going to scientifically test all the ads. It'll do other things, but if you're looking for scientific testing, you're not going to get that out of optimizing a standard ad campaign. Um, One of the things that's really relevant that a lot of people don't realize is happening is you got to move away from granular targeting on Meta. So you're going to move away from interest targeting, keyword targeting, lookalike targeting, and retargeting. You got to go broad instead: age, gender, and location. Age, gender, and location gives Meta enough leeway to find your best customer. So for us, we're targeting about 140 million people, but only about 80,000 to 100,000 people can work with us in the United States. So how does that even possibly work? It's because Meta is really good at routing your ad message to the people who are most interested in it right now. Remember, it has like 15, 20 years of data on most of us, both on Meta properties and off Meta properties. And so if you're about to buy sneakers and you abandon cart and then you go back to Meta to like do other stuff, it will serve you ads for other competing sneaker companies. So you're not doing retargeting based on your website, you're doing retargeting based on the product category or the intent to purchase right now. And if you don't give Meta the broad targeting, you limit its ability to do that for you. So you really want to understand how it works, which is valuable because then you can prime it to find your sales.
That's amazing because it kind of gives me an aha moment because the usual advice is to like, well, figure out like this big broad, like, bunch of demographics and psychographics about your ideal customer, and then use that to set up your advertising campaign. But what you say makes a lot of sense because it's kind of like I've heard people say, oh, ChatGPT, oh, it's garbage. It doesn't do this, it doesn't do that. Well, it's literally as good as you are at telling it what to do. Like if you say, write me a blog post about big data, it's going to give you garbage. But if
Right.
you tell it what you want, it's going to be a okay first draft. I mean, I always tell people edit what you get from there and make it more you because it obviously doesn't yet anyway, write in your voice. But that's interesting because I hadn't thought about that. Like they're using AI in the background essentially to determine who's the best person to see your ad. But if I tell it, well, I want them to be interested in chess, well, now all of a sudden, anyone who hasn't ever shown an interest in chess isn't going to be shown the ad, yet they may potentially be the perfect person to see that ad. So that's actually
Exactly.
that's a huge aha moment for me. Thank you for that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Um,
I think really I'm when I think about when I look at what big agencies are doing, like the large multinational ad agencies, when I know people in those places, that's what they're doing. That's the way they're targeting these ads. And so it seems counterintuitive to everything you've been taught, but you've got to, as media buyers, our job is to evolve over time and understand the back end of these metrics so that we know how to properly use them.
Well, and one thing I would say to the listeners is, when you're hiring an expert like Robert, and I know you've got your tech, all of you guys have your tech expertise. And there's a tendency to listen and then you kind of go, well, that's not how I feel about it. I don't want to go that route. Well, ask yourself why you hired Robert in the first place. Like, why did you hire this company? And there's a reason for that. You felt like they were the expert that could help you with your issue. Let them, let them help you. Stop getting in their way and challenging I mean, you can ask questions, but stop challenging every single thing they say, like, well, that's not what I heard. That's not what I heard. Let them try it. You know why I say that? Because if you started down that path and it wasn't working, I could immediately point that out to you that, well, look, I told you that wasn't going to be it, and look, it's not working. But that won't happen because they know what they're doing. And I believe this wholeheartedly. I mean, I always tell this story that to friends that are struggling with, how do I listen to this person? Why would I listen to them? Well, I say, well, why did you hire them? I mean, I went and had back surgery like over 20 years ago, and the surgeon, I lived on a 2-story house, and the surgeon said, no going upstairs for 14 days. To stay off the stairs. At the third or fourth day, I could have gone up the stairs. I stayed off of it for 14 days, and I've never had a problem with my back. Now, can I explicitly say, yes, that's why? No, I can't. But what I can say is I followed every direction he gave me, and that's probably why I don't have any problems with my back. But as humans, what we tend to do is be like, I don't agree with that. Then why did you pay the person? I don't get it.
Right.
So what's the most unconventional advertising approach you've ever implemented?
Oh, this goes back a while.
Cool.
This was just when I was starting out. So let me preface this by saying that what we do is, it sounds kind of boring, but we execute on the fundamentals. You understand how the platforms work and you execute on it all day, every day. So it's not like massively unconventional, at least not from my perspective. I think the most interesting thing I've ever done was, there's a movie called When a Stranger Calls that came out in like
Mhm.
2006. So basically I was lead on that campaign, and we ran the media plan. And the media plan was three things. It was, well, a lot of ads on a lot of different properties. We bought we made a MySpace page for the character Jill. So the story of that movie is, it was a remake of a movie from the 1970s. Anyway, this young person, Jill, is babysitting in a house by the lake or something like that. And the call is coming from inside the house. That was the main thing of there's
Right.
some like serial killer or something inside the house, and he was calling this person's phone, this young woman's phone. And so we had made a MySpace page at the time, which was all in her voice, exactly how like a teenager's MySpace would look, and we created that all from scratch. We had a chat bot in 2006, which was
Wow.
pre-programmed, where you can talk to the person on AOL Instant Messenger, and people had chats with that person, with the bot as the character Jill. And there was an 800 number you could call, which was like, the situation was, it was kind of like you're calling your friend Jill, like you're a teenager calling your friend, and every so now and again she would have to get off the phone and take the other call that was coming from inside the house, and she was really freaked out about it. So this is really cool interactive experience. We got like over 1 billion impressions from AOL at the time. A lot of that ran to promote the instant messenger bot, and we won Media Plan of the Year on that campaign, and the movie opened number one. So Sony was very happy about that at the box office. And that was, in my opinion, that was the coolest campaign I've ever run. It was a collaborative effort. I can't take full credit for it, but I was lead on that, and that was really exciting.
That's awesome. So let's shift to something a little personal. So I noticed you have a bunch of like stuff behind you there, artifacts and knickknacks and whatnot. What's the most interesting piece of, personal memorabilia that you have in your office? And what's the story behind it?
Um, we have a photo of my wife over there, on our wedding day. And I have a few baseballs. I caught batting practice a few times in 2019 at Dodger Stadium. You just go early on the game, to the game. You go to the stands, and you catch baseballs as they're hitting home runs out of the park for batting practice. So that was a lot of fun. I really enjoy that stuff.
That's awesome. I'm a huge Dodger fan, have been since I was just a little tiny guy. And I'm actually super excited for this season. I think we're starting to see the potential that this team has, and I do say starting to see.
Yeah,
I love the people that expect the team to just gel instantly.
yeah,
But like I don't know if people are paying attention, but like just a side note, I was showing my kids were here for the weekend because we went to a Golden Knights game on Saturday night, and they came in from California, and we were watching some highlights, and they're like, "Dad, why do they always go like this now all of a sudden?" I said,
yeah.
"It's Shohei Ohtani's influence. It's from Dragon Ball, and that's something he does when he gets on base. So now they all do it. And it
Oh,
just goes to
really?
show you. So now it
I
just
didn't
goes
know
to
that.
show you like they're gelling as a team. Like they
Yeah,
like each other. And um I don't know. I used to pitch baseball, and if I had to face that top four in the batting order, it would make me nervous. And Will Smith has become like the goat right now. Like that guy just suddenly just came. I used to see him come to bat and kind of be like, uh-oh, here we go. Anything could happen here. He might do really well. He might do poorly. Now when he comes to bat, I'm excited. It's like he's become a true number four behind, the big three. It's crazy. But um,
yeah.
so let's say you could go to a dinner party, right? And you could invite three people from any period in history. And you want to brainstorm the ultimate advertising campaign with them. Who are you inviting?
Oh man. Ogilvy, Obama, and I don't know. And Rory, there's a guy named Rory Sutherland. He's a chairman of Ogilvy in the UK, and he's just absolutely amazing. So those would be the three. Obama because he can, I mean, he's absolutely amazing. Ogilvy because he's David Ogilvy because he's a legend in the business, and Rory Sutherland because I watch him on YouTube all the time, and he is just magical in what he's talking about, and these ideas that he has.
That's awesome. Obama is definitely one. I mean, in my lifetime, I've seen a lot of presidents come and go, and he's definitely one who, came up with some good marketing catchphrases that just hit home and got him elected. Truly, I believe that. Like, um, campaigning, that's what it's all about, right? Like creating this universe that people want to hear, and then, speaking to it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great trio. That's a really great trio. So why don't you tell us about a time when a seemingly disastrous situation turned into a success for you or Brill Media?
Yeah, I mean, there was a summer when we tripled our staff, and it sounded great, but we should have done it earlier. So when we did it, it was kind of disastrous. Like no one was happy. Our clients were starting to rumble about dissatisfaction. I was working more than ever, which is crazy because I thought I would work less because we were tripling our staff. And going back to your conversation about the Dodgers, we hadn't gelled. And one of the things that was critical to that gelling period was a standard operating procedure. And I didn't know that. Like, I never went into business thinking, okay, SOPs, I'm so excited about this. I didn't even know what they were. And so the person who became our chief operating officer, I hired him. I'd worked with him in the past. He was really smart about things. And he was like, yeah, you don't have an SOP. No one knows what they're supposed to do. And I was like, oh, mind blown. This is horrible. Please fix this for us. So he came in, and ever since then, we've sustained our growth above a certain plateau because we we have an SOP, and there's a few things there, right? Everyone knows exactly what they need to be doing. They know what success looks like, so they can leave the day saying, "Hey, I feel great about how I did with the work." They stay with the business longer because they're happier. Their work improves because they just understand the intricacies of the business. Clients are happy. They bring us more business, and then we hire. And then when we hire, I don't have to train people. Other people train the new people. So it's a virtuous cycle of growth.
That's interesting. I just went last week in here in Vegas to a video marketing conference, and
Hmm.
um, most of the people are, solopreneur type people. And one of the advice that one of the speakers gave was just that. Like they said that in their business, if something takes more than two steps, so three or more steps to complete, they write it out. And they said, some of you who don't have a team are going to say, why would I do that? Well, because you forget when there's multiple steps. let's say there's 20 steps to get something done. I do it for my YouTube releases.
Yeah.
Do this, then do this, then do this, then do this, then do this. And I have a checklist. Well, there's been times where I'll get through and I'll be like, wait a second, I forgot to do this. I better go back and add those tags in there. Because you get distracted and you forget. But also, when you hire somebody later down the road to help you with that, because hopefully you grow, you can hand them that document and say, here's how we do this. And
Right.
then if they leave your company, the next person can come in and you can say, here's how we do this. And it just creates this consistency. It's like in our business, we use SOPs all the time. And we even schedule every 6 months a review of the SOP by the person that is responsible for it, to make sure that it's still accurate. Because how frustrating is it when you Google something and you get to the docs of the very thing you're using and they're wrong because it's 5 versions later and they've never updated it. And
Right.
that's why we keep our SOPs updated. So that's actually great. That's actually a great story. But this has been a great combo. Appreciated your time here today. I love the answers you gave me. I especially like the answer of the 3 people. I think Obama was very unexpected for me. But as soon as you said it, I was like, of course, it totally makes sense. But why don't you let the listeners know how they can connect with you if they'd like to reach out?
Yeah, our website is brillmedia.co, and hit the start now button and you can schedule a time with me, share your information, and you'll get a calendar link. And or my email, robert@brillmedia.co.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for your time today. It's been awesome speaking with you.
Same here. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here for Gaining the Technology Leadership Edge. New episodes every Wednesday, 8 a.m. Pacific time on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Hope you have a great week and join us next week for another exciting episode.